What's up, guys? Josh Pate here. No, it's not Sunday night. It's not Thursday night. It's not even Wednesday for the extra podcast. It's Monday night, but we have got a full schedule release from the SEC. I got notes on top of notes on top of notes. I got a full helmet grid schedule in front of me, so I thought we'd just take a few minutes here, talk amongst ourselves as we normally do, and let's do some good old-fashioned schedule release reaction. And there are a number of things that we can react to. Again, if you have been in a cave, the SEC released the full schedule today. So I'm going to go in no particular order here. I'm going to go in no particular team order either. In fact, I want to start at the very end. One of the things that caught my eye was this date, A&M going to Auburn, the final week of the season this year, which is December 5th, by the way. That looks so tantalizing. It looks so juicy. The Iron Bowl is not the last game of the year for Auburn this year. That should be noted first. And secondly, what should be noted is, well, A&M is the final game for Auburn. Now, here's the big question. The big question is we've never seen Auburn have to play another regular season game after Alabama, but my whole thing with a meaningful game on the surface like this late in the season is, will it matter? What kind of SEC Western Division ramifications does that game have on it? If we've already gotten the SEC West wrapped up before then a game that would be huge in week 4 loses a lot of its luster later in the season. I love Florida's draw. Oh, I love what the Gators got here. You remember a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, there were all these whispers and rumors. You notice how wrong those have been lately, by the way? And everyone was talking about how Florida was about to get grade A shafted by the conference office, and they were going to serve them up on a silver platter to Alabama and Texas A&M. Well, that's not what happened. And in fact, out of all the teams here that are thought to be contenders, I really think I like Florida's schedule about the best out of anyone. So let's walk through it here. They open at Ole Miss. That's not an easy game, but let's just be real amongst ourselves. There's a reason Florida's going to be favored by more than a touchdown in that game. They should win it. Should. Paper. Should. So here's what I love about Florida's schedule. There is no gauntlet. There is no 2 or 3 week stretch that's just going to be a murderer's row. They got Carolina in week 2, and then they got probably the toughest 2-game stretch of their entire season. They go to Texas A&M in week 3 before a home date against LSU. And then after the Missouri game, they have the bye week. Now, here's what I love about this, okay? Just on the surface, that's pretty tough. Where do they catch Texas A&M? They catch the Aggies the week after Texas A&M has gone to Alabama. So you got to pay attention to the where. Not just who, but the where you're catching them. And they've got the bye week, do the Florida Gators, before they play Georgia. That game's still apparently scheduled for Jacksonville. But think about this. And you know what? I'll bring Georgia into this too. How the SEC East is going to shake out. Everyone always thinks that it's going to come down to the cocktail party, and we still accurately call it that in Jacksonville. That may very well be the case this year, but we got a situation. I'm looking at Georgia and Florida schedule right here in front of me. If one of those teams needs the other to lose one more time in the last month of the season, where is it going to happen? I'm going to read Florida's final 4 games. Arkansas at Vanderbilt, Kentucky at Tennessee. Here's Georgia's final 4 games. At Missouri, Mississippi State, at South Carolina, Vandy. All 8 of those games, the Gators and Dogs will be favored. Now, that Tennessee date for Florida, that's normally like a week 2 or week 3 game. That Tennessee trip at the very end of the season, Florida going to Neyland Stadium in December. You know, the more I think about that, the more I'm talking to myself into that being a potential upset. But you see what I mean here. I mean, those 2 teams, once they play on, November 7th, they being Florida and Georgia, that final month of the season, whoever's in front, whoever's the lead dog, no pun intended, when they come out of that date against each other in Jacksonville, they've got every reason to think that they could coast in the last month of the season. Now, rarely does it happen that way, but they have good reason to think that. Who could stun someone? If you were to think, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Auburn, Florida, all these teams are expected to do something this year. Who's the team? Who's the team that could creep up on you? Well, I have maintained that it's Tennessee. Now, Tennessee certainly does not have the most workable schedule here, but the teams they do play, you could either look at them in a barrel and say, oh, my goodness, they got to play Georgia. They got to play Alabama. They got to play Florida. Yeah, they got to play all of them. Let's go back to where they play them. Okay, we know who Tennessee's got to play. Where do they play them? I think Jeremy Pruitt's crew got a pretty favorable draw considering who they have to play. Tennessee plays Georgia in week 3. They go to Georgia in week 3. But it is important to note here, Tennessee plays Georgia the week before Georgia goes to Alabama. A couple weeks later, Tennessee plays Alabama. Tennessee's playing Alabama the week after Alabama has played Georgia. So if you're a believer in either the look ahead or the letdown theory in college football, if either one of them's true, Tennessee could benefit there. Now, here's the problem. The problem is they got a bye week, and then they got 3 road dates in 4 weeks, and they close with Florida at home. Is that a problem? I don't know. We just talked about that game a second ago. The more I think about it, the more I think it may be a golden opportunity there. But my whole question with Tennessee, I'm looking at that Halloween bye week. That's kind of the line in the sand. That's the line of demarcation. Are they still a contender? Are they even still making noise in the SEC East? If they are, that probably means they've pulled a big upset. They've either won in Athens or they've won at home against Alabama. And if they've done that, who knows? Well, really, who knows anything? But if you've got rosters that are in flux, if you've got teams that aren't living up to expectation, if you've got some key injuries to other teams, hey, who knows how that could shake out? How about LSU? LSU, they open against Mike Leach and Mississippi State, and they're going to be favored by over 3 touchdowns at home in that game. But I tweeted out earlier, and I maintain this, I don't even think Mike Leach knows what Mike Leach is going to throw at LSU. Got the news today that Kerry Vincent, a very seasoned defensive back for LSU, is going to opt out of this season. Very versatile, not necessarily a lock first-round type guy, but very versatile and a guy that probably will be missed, really good depth provider. But then again, we don't know. I'm looking at Mississippi State's schedule. If I were LSU and I had to play Mississippi State in week 9 or 10, that'd be a little bit different story. But I got them in week 1. Don't really know what I'm going to get from them. But as I look at how this unfolds for LSU, they go home away, bye week. They don't have, I don't think, back-to-back road dates until mid-November, and that's Arkansas and then Texas A&M. But I wonder how many losses LSU will have before their bye week. Last year, obviously, it was none. They do get Alabama after their bye week, as they usually do. But LSU in week 4 plays at Florida. Week 5, they got Carolina at home. In week 6, they go on the road to Auburn. Now, that Auburn-LSU game is always a bloodbath. But this one in particular, Auburn will have already played Georgia, and they will still obviously have Tennessee, Alabama, and A&M to come. No one can ever afford to lose that game. It's Halloween, Jordan-Hare Stadium. We've talked about what Jordan-Hare Stadium's like for those big games. So there's just, the more I look at this, the more there are a lot of cold weather games potentially in this one that we don't normally talk about in the SEC. Some other things that just stand out, I hadn't really talked about Alabama. There wasn't a whole lot that stands out on the Alabama schedule. We mentioned that the Iron Bowl is not the last week of the season this year. I'll tell you one, if you're a believer in Kentucky, the Kentucky game, where that falls on Alabama's schedule, it could be tricky a little bit. Bama plays at LSU on November 14th, and they play home against Auburn November 28th. Kentucky slips in there, really under the radar, between LSU and Auburn. Now, where does Bama finish the season? They go to Fayetteville, Arkansas. That's halfway to Canada, basically. They go to Fayetteville, Arkansas in December. So that big, ugly, dark, it's not even maroon. It's like a dark, it's not crimson. It's more maroonish, like dark maroon coat that Nick Saban wears in cold weather games. Probably going to see that. Do they already have something locked up by then? Who knows? But I look up and down this thing, and it is a sight to behold. I never thought I'd look at it. I never even thought I'd look at an SEC schedule that had 9 conference games on it. This one has 10, and it's incredible. I said earlier, and I will say again, if I had a team in this league, if Josh U, thinking about changing to Josh A&M, but Josh U, if they were in this league, my team was in this league, and I won the SEC championship this year, I would take that trophy, and I would put it on every billboard in every state, about every 5 miles on every major interstate from now until eternity. You can talk about how invalid the college football playoff national championship may be this year, and I'll disagree with you, but you could talk about that. However invalid that is, times it by 5, and the validity of this year's SEC championship is unlike anything you've ever seen. It's really, we knew it was coming. It's not a surprise, but it's just a shock to the senses to look at stuff like this, to look at the fact that Arkansas goes A&M, Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, Auburn. They got to play all of these teams. I don't even want to read that out loud. That should come with a warning. So, the week 1, I saw Trey Biddy from our Arkansas site suggest today, and he's probably right. It just looks like the SEC took what they perceive to be the best 7 teams and matched them up against the worst 7 teams. If that's what they did, that's what they did. I smile because I can't do anything about it. They don't listen to me. If they listen to me, to be honest with you, I've probably done a lot of what they did here, to be honest with you. But I'm looking around, and like I said, Tennessee, probably the best shock potential. LSU, Alabama, that date remains after a bye week. Georgia, Florida, that date remains after a bye week. You got some rivalry games moved around, but man, if we can just get it off the ground, it's going to be a really, really fun season. Of course, we've got the Late Kick Extra podcast that'll come your way Wednesday morning. We'll have Late Kick Live coming up this Thursday night. We are so close to being ready to shifting to a 3-night-a-week format for Late Kick Live. So close. Final details being ironed out. But I just wanted to get this to you right here on this Monday night. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. God bless. And check out the rest of the videos on the channel and subscribe if you haven't already.